Ask the Mayor on KWBE when we talk about city business every Thursday of the week in Beatrice. And this week we have in another guest, Bob Morgan, off again. Mayor Bob Morgan on to other duties. And we have in with us Chet McGrury, who is Community Development Officer for the city of Beatrice. Good morning, Chet.
Morning.
Good to have you in today.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here.
I still every once in a while say building inspection. I can't get used to that. You had this kind of transition to a new name, and your title is basically Community Development Officer.
Community Development Director.
Director.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Tell us makeup of your office. You're a fairly small office personnel-wise, but you handle quite a few duties.
Yeah, there's three of us in the office, myself and Nick Padani, who is my code enforcement officer, and then we just hired Chelsea Guffrey as our admin assistant. So she's kind of drinking through the fire hose right now to learn all the stuff we do, the mapping and all the zoning regs and all that stuff. So
what's it been like for you having gone from being the code enforcement officer now into the head position there, and what kind of adjustment is that?
That's a 180-degree swing. Now I've gone from dealing with nuisances. Now I'm new construction, building plans, permits, all that stuff. So it's a little bit of a change there. I spent 6 years doing code enforcement, but so that's.
You have to have quite a knowledge of codes too, and if I've ever seen code books, they're not small, are they?
No, the code books. There's 15 or 16 of them. The major ones are the residential code, international property maintenance code, building code. And those 1,000-page books of how you build something from the ground up. So.
Yeah. You memorized it all already?
No.
Almost impossible to.
No. It's most of the testing. When you do the testing on those, it's to see how fast you can find an answer in the book. There's just okay. You can memorize some of the basic stuff, but
those are updated periodically. But it's not all that often, is it? That
right.
You have to actually adopt a new one.
Yeah, we try to update about every 7 years. We're still running on 2015 edition right now. I have the 2021 books in office right now, so that's where we'll head next. And most of the testing I'm going to do on 2021, since they don't change a lot of things. Yeah. Just tweak things that change as.
They don't give you a book where they highlight the changes, do they, or things like that?
Yeah,
or they do?
They're out there. Yeah, they make you pay for them, but
yeah, true. Won't you know? Yeah, pay for studying.
Yeah. Yep.
When you were a code enforcement officer before you moved up to the top position, code enforcement basically is what kind of complaint driven to some extent? Is that it? Or
to some extent, we do have complaint stuff. There's stuff we don't see. We try to be as proactive as possible and get out. If recliner's been sitting on a sidewalk for a week, we try to get on those as quick as we can. Weed season, we try to stay ahead of the grass, but it's a daunting task.
Yeah. Is there help from like police if they see something that they may report to you every once in a while?
We do get some help from the police department. They see some things we don't see. Sometimes they're in, say, hey, take a look at this, check this. This doesn't look right. We do work with the police department on stuff like that, and we'll pass them things too. 24-hour parking stuff. We get a lot of complaints for cars parked on the street, and anything on the street they handle, and anything up on the property is usually our domain.
You mentioned weeds, vegetation height, that type of thing. Is that a problem in the growing season quite often? Has it gotten better or whatever? I mean, we notice some areas of town once in a while where you wonder why that weed has been growing out of a crack in the sidewalk for whenever. But how is it that was this past year kind of bad? Was it about average, or what would you say?
This year, I didn't check the numbers on how many weed complaints we had, but it stays pretty consistent, and it depends on how the rains, the growing season. Once it's spring hits, it starts raining. There we go. Mid-April, we'll start seeing our first weed violations, and then all the way up through August when things start to die off. And
by and large, in those types of violations, do you most often get voluntary compliance, or what happens when you don't? What's kind of the process you have to go through there?
Yeah, about 95% of the time we'll get them mowed. If not, then we have to go through some other steps before we can actually go on and send public properties out to mow. But we don't end up mowing a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
just better off if you go by and tell them, hey, would you please cut this and get it taken care of?
And don't blow it in the street when you mow it.
Yeah, storm sewers don't like that.
No. Motorcycles, it's bad for motorcycles.
Any particular part of town where there are repeat problems of that, or is it just kind of a scattered thing?
Every neighborhood has its thing, so it's everywhere.
Yeah. Your assistant then takes care of that now, and that's pretty much a full-time job, I'm assuming.
Right now we're kind of we kind of switch. We have seasons. We've got weed season, and then so we can't see a lot of the junk and the junk vehicles hiding back in the weeds during that time of year. The leaves are all on the trees. This time of year, then we'll kind of shift and we'll start doing junk vehicles and old tires and junk like that are sitting on property. So it kind of shifts with the season, and then we'll move in. If it snows, then we got to deal with snow. So
seems like every community to some extent struggles with junked vehicles now and then, or they're trying to deal with it in one form or another. And what's they always talk about whether it's operable or not. How do you determine that? It just has to have wheels, move it every once in a while, or how does that work?
It needs to be street operable. Obviously, the lights need to work. The tires need to be inflated. Anything that would be legal to drive on the street.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't get pulled over for.
Yeah. We have that new ordinance on UTVs and the registration requirements coming up on that as of January 1st. Does your department get at all involved in that, or is that mainly a police matter?
I think that's probably going to be mostly police. We won't, unless they've got a bunch of junked ones or something sitting around. But
ever since that ordinance went into effect, I don't see that many of them. On a couple of occasions I have, but I think you heard some people, it was almost like they thought it was going to be flooded with UTVs, but you don't really.
Yeah, no, it's in this time of year it's cold.
Yeah,
it's not fun to ride those things this time.
Not
of year.
an open air vehicle.
Yeah, no.
So
if you. It's kind of fun if you're just running to the grocery store or something, but we don't see a lot of them. There's a few that run around, but it's been mostly summer.
Right. So. Chet McGrury with us today on Ask the Mayor. He is a community development director for the city of Beatrice, what used to be known as building inspection. We'll have more in a moment. We're back on Ask the Mayor today, and our guest is Chet McGrury, the Community Development Director for the City of Beatrice, the Community Development Department, formerly known as Building Inspections. Before the break, we were talking about junked vehicles, things like that. In the area of both, junked vehicles and then also just properties that are dilapidated. When you deal with them, I know there's been the situation in the past where community members who have to live by them, well, even council members always kind of ask, why can't we address some of these things maybe in a quicker fashion or whatever. But there's a process you have to go through because people have property rights.
Correct, so, Everybody gets their due process. We have to go through all the notifications. We identify things. We have to get warrants if there's going to be an inspection. So there's a process to... we just can't go kicking indoors and see what we need to see. So,
on an average case involving a junked vehicle from start to finish, how long does it take to kind of solve it, I guess?
Our initial, there's a 30-day notice goes out that just says, hey, you've got a junk vehicle, move it, put it in the garage, fix it, and that's a 30-day notice on that. At that point, if it does not get moved, then we move into the towing phase, where we'll send out a tow notice, which goes out certified. Depending on how long it takes for them to pick up the letter, or if they don't, that can be another 3 weeks before that letter comes back. And then we have to go back out. Once we get that letter back, then we'll post the vehicle. It says, hey, you got 5 days, we're going to tow it. So it can be about 2 months by the time we get through the process.
Yeah, you run through these. Do you often get to a situation where you just can't find the owner, or you just are not getting any response at all?
Oh, yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of abandoned vehicles that are just there, but it does happen.
So how long, if you can't get a hold of them, does that step up the process of actually removing the vehicle?
No, we still have to go through,
Yeah.
the 30-day notice and the certified, and those are the ones that the certified, it takes 3 weeks to a month to come back unclaimed, and then we post it another 5, and then nothing will tow it.
Yeah. In any type of complaint, whether it's, junked vehicle, dilapidated building, what percentage of, I guess, cases that you've seen over a set amount of time that is, that just there's voluntary compliance and they get it taken care of? Is it more than half, less than half, or what's it like?
Oh, it's way more than half. Most of the time we'll get stuff out and we'll get it fixed. We have a few that just kind of sit and languish. We don't get anywhere.
Yeah. Repeat problems that you see, like same owner sometimes, or how does that work out?
Yeah, we do have our repeat offenders. I won't name any names, but we do have those ones we deal with.
You're familiar with the addresses?
Yes,
and
everything? I know all the addresses and all the players.
Yeah. Didn't a while back, I don't recall the exact what was done with it, but on junked vehicles, I know the city went through a situation where they kind of revamped ordinance on that as far as being able to tow vehicles where they would go. Since that was done, has that improved the situation at all? Do you see a worse problem or about the same problem with junked vehicles?
It's about the same. They come and go. I mean, it's just kind of a revolving door with cars.
Yeah.
They break down and there they sit.
Yeah.
Or some cases people don't have the money to fix them. And they sit there, or no garage to put them in, and so it's ongoing.
Yeah. If they build screening for them, does that solve anything at all, or what's the situation there?
No. You can throw a tarp on it, but we still got a junk vehicle sitting under a tarp, which sometimes looks.
But I was
just as
thinking
bad,
about more behind, say, like a fence or something.
Oh yeah, you can if you have a privacy fence, 6-foot privacy fence, you can actually keep 2 in your backyard if that's a fully fenced.
Oh, I see.
So there's that. Yeah.
Okay. Of course, then most people sometimes can't afford to put up a fence like that.
Right.
So they still have the.
Yep. Then you get the tarp.
Yeah. Over the past few years, you've taken down some properties, haven't you, through city council action too, as far as budgeting for dilapidated properties and things like that?
Yeah, they give us so much a year to handle dilapidated properties, or emergency. We get a fire or something, and we end up having to take them down. We removed a lot of structures over the last 6 or 7 years. Just kind of the low-hanging fruit that was really bad ones, kind of abandoned houses. So we're better. We've still got a few out there that we're looking at. So
how long a list is it that you still have to deal with?
Oh, I'd say we probably have 10 that are probably on the radar for really bad ones.
What at what point do they reach, situation where they have to be condemned, say like an old house or something like that? What becomes a life safety problem, or when exactly does it?
Yeah, life safety. Most of the time you'll have roof failure, so you get mold inside and they'll start to collapse. So typically it starts from the top and kind of rots its way down.
Yeah.
Wood rots when it's not painted. It weathers and holes open up, and then it just kind of escalates. We'll watch utilities if there's no water, no electricity in there, and we're occupied. We'll have to deal with that. So.
Well, I think last year and probably part of this year too was the year of the roof, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Due to a couple rounds of hailstorms, if I remember right. But give us a kind of a overview of the extent of that whole situation. There had to be a ton of roofs replaced.
I did just a quick figure this yesterday morning. In 2022, I was showing we did 1,750 roofing permits. I think we have 5,000 houses in town. So
a lot of them.
And when you add in what we did this year for roofs, we were down to 260 this year. So, 2,000. And then for sure there were some roofing companies that just rolled in and did them on a weekend and got out of town before we knew about it. So
when on a roof project, when is a permit actually required? When the whole thing is replaced? Or what about, say, like a minor repair or something?
Minor repair, if you're just going to replace a couple of shingles that are damaged, or a tree punched a hole. If you're not replacing the whole roof, we'll let you repair without a permit on that.
Mm-hmm. How much is a permit? Is that tough to get, or you just
come in for a roofing permit. They're $75. They used to be based on the cost, but we had smaller houses that didn't cost as much, and the permits were a little higher than they should have been.
Now, does the homeowner come in and get it, or can they have the contractor?
Homeowner can, contractor can come in.
And I imagine they have in some cases if they got a bunch of them or whatever.
Yeah, our big roofing companies in town will just get them all together and send us a whole pile of the stuff they're going to be working on. So during that, we were processing a lot of permits every day.
Yeah. And some city buildings had some roof damage too from hail. I think fire department, library, I think?
Library, airport. Pretty much all of our buildings had some kind of damage.
It was an equal opportunity storm or whatever it seemed like.
It didn't discriminate on anybody. So it
seems like the east and northeast parts of town were the places really hit hard on that first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that first storm kind of passed kind of on the north half of town, north and east part of town. So that was where we saw the first round of major damage.
So how close do you think you are up until the next hailstorm, whenever that happens? How close are you to when these are going to slow down or pretty much all be?
We've already pretty well slowed down. Like we said, we've only done 260 roof permits this year. So we've got the south half of town, so hopefully we don't see any storms on that side. But half the town has new roofs.
Yeah. Whether they like it or not, it had to be done.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Chet McGrury with us on Ask the Mayor. We'll be back with more to wrap up our program in just a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor with Chet McGrury, Community Development Director for the City of Beatrice. Maybe just kind of a windshield view of what kind of building and development year do you think it will wind up being in Beatrice in 2023 in terms of the number of, say, like residential permits, commercial projects, things like that?
It's been a pretty good year. We had 9 new single-family residents started this year. A lot of those are coming into completion now, and we've got a few that just started here. The weather's been cooperative, so we've been able to get a couple late starts on some stuff. So we've got a new duplex going in at the old hospital site. That's rapidly coming together. I think they've got that sited and everything. We've got a new fourplex going up over on South 19th in that area. We've got a new triplex townhouse going over at Covered Bridge along with a duplex there. So, there's some housing coming up. We had some big industrial projects. Tacoma added on a huge part to their thing. The Go Car Wash, YMCA just broke ground and poured their foundations for their new therapy pool. The U-Stop out on the east end is up and going. Obviously, the new school is coming along pretty quick. The hospital finished up their new addition. And then we have a Bitcoin mining operation coming up out there in Industrial Park. They've poured some footings for one of their little buildings.
So even though people sometimes say, hey, the economy's not that good, development still goes on. There's people building things.
Yeah, still going. I was talking to a contractor yesterday. The availability of material is back to where it should be. They're not having any trouble getting stuff. It's now people are so busy they can't get the independent, the plumbers, the electricians are so busy they're trying to get them coordinated in on their projects. So things are happening.
Which I guess is a good problem to have if you have to maybe wait a little while more because there's so much work out there. You'd rather have it that way than nobody building anything.
Rather be not having stuff and people laid off and
and maybe fewer roof projects or whatever.
Because of hail. We may not need a lot of roofs for a while, but
Well, the big project that's still lingering out there, and I know you took me through one time in the old Dempster property, which was really an eye-opener because, I mean,
It's
outside,
huge, isn't it?
yeah, outside looks bad enough, but you get to the inside of it and you just realize the enormity of a project that this thing is.
Yeah.
This past year, one of the backside buildings was taken down. Wasn't
Yeah, we did have to take down one of the buildings. One of the main beams cracked. The roof had already started to come in. It was an old mechanic's shop on the north end of the compound, and the main beam had broken, so it was kind of in danger of collapsing. And with the amount of people we have goofing around in there, looking around and stealing stuff, and we felt it was probably better to get that down before somebody does something stupid and we have a bad accident in there.
Yeah.
So we took it down.
Does that still happen? Are you still? It is condemned.
Oh, yeah.
And it's off limits. But
Yeah, we go in there all the time, and there'll be new graffiti and
Yeah.
stuff strewn around. So
still looking for something to take that might be of some value or something like that.
yeah, they were down to stealing the plywood off the walls in there at one point. So
Wow.
when plywood was $50 a sheet. So.
Anything with some suspected value.
Yeah.
Is there a next in line building on that property you think will be the next one to come down?
Yeah, our next one will probably be the west side, which would have been the old wood shop. It's the lumber, I guess their lumber storage area on that side it was damaged in the floods a few years ago, and it's kind of rickety, and that'll probably be the next one to go.
Yeah. Is that the one that's, I'm trying to visualize that, is it kind of southwest of the one you've already taken down? Would that be?
This one would be running on the far west side of the building.
Oh, okay.
Or the west side of the compound, right up against the street back there. That's 4th Street back there.
Kind of when you come in on that drive, it'd be sort of to the right when you're coming in?
Yeah, when you come around the driveway, it'd be right there as you come in.
It's hard to always visualize things because it's so overgrown back there that it's tough to even see.
That's probably not a bad thing. That nature has kind of hidden that
kind of screened it for
big ugly elephant.
Yeah. Knowing how long of a project this is, and it'll also take some grant support likely to complete it all. Do you foresee a particular year or time when, hey, this is going to be done and it'll be totally out of there?
No, I don't. There's still a lot of back taxes to be. We don't own all the properties, so we can't really do a lot of stuff on there. We're slowly acquiring the taxes on some of those parcels that are in there, but we'll just kind of eat that thing one bite at a time.
Yeah.
So
take a lot more years to get
Yeah. That's
now environmental officials were in there too because there's some hazardous things. I think there was some spillage from transformers at one time too.
Yeah.
What is the level, I guess, of contamination there, and is that still a problem to be dealt with? I know they hauled some things out of there.
Yeah, they removed, there was a lot of oil drums and just unidentified chemicals and stuff like that was stored around in different areas of that, and the transformers that were dumped out that in an effort to get to the copper that was in those. So we had that. EPA came in, and they cleaned all that stuff up, hauled it out, and they went through anything that they could get a hold of that was hazardous or anything. They removed it for us. I know we had some soil testing, ground testing in there, so there's some contamination in soil out there. So that's kind of hindrance for us too for tearing stuff down because we're not allowed to disturb soil. So like with this last one, we didn't dig it out. We just took it down to the concrete floor, so we didn't do any digging.
Yeah.
So
that ground contamination, to what extent, might tough to answer this because it'd be off into the future, but is that going to limit what you'll be able to do with that property after all of the buildings are gone?
That's going to be kind of an EPA call, I think. Yeah. They'll tell us, how much 3 feet of dirt has to come off of that, and we replace that with new dirt. Yeah, that's down the road a ways.
I was trying to visualize, you go by there, let's say all the buildings were gone. That is one big space. I don't know what it amounts to from front to back, south to north, but there's a sizable amount of ground.
Yeah,
there
I'm not sure what the total acreage is on it, but it's bigger than it looks.
Yeah.
Because it goes all the way from 6th back to 4th Street back there. So
the hope is to get grant funding to aid in some of that as far as cleanup.
Yeah, hopefully there's some cleanup grants out there that we'll be able to apply for, and maybe some more help from the EPA in the future. Hopefully.
Yeah. Heading into, we're into the winter season officially as of today, as a matter of fact. I think it's first day of winter. How busy is winter for your office in terms, and what's apart from like what you do during the summertime or spring? What's most of your time taken up this time of year doing?
Now we'll refocus, like I said, the junk vehicles and junk in yards, the stuff we can see once the foliage is off the trees, and then if it does snow, we have to handle snow complaints for sidewalks that don't get scooped, which is a difficult task.
Yeah, there's a set amount of time when following a storm when you're supposed to get it cleared off.
Yeah, they're supposed to be scooped 24 hours after the last flake falls. Okay. So,
right. What about? I imagine this is a police thing more than your department. What about parking on a street where snowplows have to work around?
That falls on police department, but that makes it easy for them to identify which cars haven't moved in 24 hours with the big snow pile around them. Yeah.
And I suppose you face a few of those problems every year.
Yeah.
Kind of the way it is, and some people can't get out, but there's people that will help them do that. Plenty of lawn services that'll do.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of guys out there that'll scoop snow for a fee.
Yeah. Well, Chet, we appreciate you coming in today in place of Bob Morgan, the mayor, and don't see you between now and then. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Good luck to your department and all the things you do during the year, because it's a big job and it's a lot of things to do.
Yeah, appreciate it.